Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
This isn't my story about my friends. My friend worked at a jewelry store and the attire was a business suit. She loves her job because she's surrounded every day by precious metals and stones. She's a nerd for Victorian fashion or whatever-esque there is regarding fashion, balls, princesses, and royalty of Europe. Anyways, the only thing she hated in that job was the manager, Susie. From the account of my friend, Susie has an attitude similar to the fairy godmother from Shrek. Very kind in front of customers, but would then bare her teeth when they left. Her favorite pastime was to chat with a customer while criticizing the employees with remarks about their looks, appearance, or how what accessories they wore didn't match their complexion and such. And she seems to have a grudge for my friend, probably because she engages with a customer with minor trivia like, "Did you know jade had a hidden meaning?" and such, and it made a lot of people return to the store. One day, Susie got extremely pissed and started off with my friend about how she looks, mind that she dresses as plainly as possible because she geeks out when it comes to anything fashion related to the 14th century, and that she has to look like what the customer wants to look like. I imagine that a light bulb went off on her head and blood rushing to her face as she thought of things she could wear and whatnot. So for the entire week, which crosses Valentine's Day, she dressed up in gowns and dresses matched with accessories that made her look like Barbie princess. The entire time, there were people coming up to her about the dress, the accessories, and the theme to which she explained was the light. Susie was steaming the entire time. She tried to get her fired, but the owner was present because of the upcoming holiday and was happy with the increase in sales then. I managed to sneak in and saw her in a white dress that screamed Frozen, if it had an Eastern vibe to it, and Susie glaring from the back. I heard she left after the week was over without notice and someone else was promoted. My friend wasn't too bothered because the current manager had seniority and was pretty chill, so she's happy. I'm still so shook with everything, so sorry for my rambling. My husband Jake and I have been married for 3 years, and from the beginning he was very close with his best friend's sister Cindy, 18 female. Well, my husband would often talk about her and tell how he had seen her grow up throughout the years. Cindy is always very bubbly and seems very fond of Jake as well. I remember when we were dating, she would ask to come along on our date a lot. I never really said anything as I liked spending time with her as well. She was like a little sister to me. When we announced our engagement, she asked my husband to better not forget her after being a married man and to still hang out with her. Well, we got married and I even made her my bridesmaid. Soon, we moved to a different state and kinda lost contact. Now Jake's best friend came to stay with us for some time and Cindy came along as well. Now the moment she saw us, the first thing she said was how hot my husband has gotten, and she was glad he didn't look like those boring married men. Then throughout their stay, Cindy would just ignore my presence and will be way too close with Jake. I told Jake that it was looking a bit inappropriate and to ask Cindy to tone it down, but he said that Cindy is just a bit childish and is that way with everybody. Well, on their last day, we decided to host a dinner party for everyone. During the party, I was with Jake when Cindy came and told me, "Oh, I need to steal your husband for a while." And before I could say anything, she grabbed Jake's hand and took him for playing games. I ignored it since it was her last day, but then throughout the dinner she was getting way too close with Jake. I would just drag him away whenever I would be around while giggling at me. When everybody sat for dinner, I sat beside Jake and Cindy came last. She then said, "Oh, there is no seat," and then just went and sat on my husband's lap. Everybody was surprised, and Jake said laughing, "Cindy, stop acting like a kid. You're not a kid anymore." Cindy started laughing, saying it was a joke, and got up and sat on another seat while giggling at me. Yeah, I was so angry with the disrespect and with the fact that Jake was so cool with it. But I didn't want to say anything bad, so I excused myself, took my car, and I went out. About 1 hour later, Jake called me asking where I was. I told him I'm going to my friend's house and I will come after Cindy has left. I know what I did was terrible, but I was so angry at that time that if I had stayed there any longer, I would have probably started fighting or crying. I came the next day and Cindy and her family had left. Jake was very pissed and said I took things too far. I started crying and told him how everything made me feel. He said it was horrible to think such things about Cindy and that she was like his sister. I told him that I was not doubting his intentions, but I was hurt by how disrespectful Cindy's behavior was, and he was enabling her by not saying anything. He started saying that I sounded ridiculous and couldn't even take a joke, referring to the sitting on lab incident. I said regardless, I don't want her in my house again. To top it off, Cindy sent a message saying that she was sorry about making me so insecure in myself and that she would make sure to make me feel better. But I should not have left as it was pretty childish and kind of spoiled the mood. It felt so backhanded. I didn't reply to her. I just told my husband he needs to maintain a distance with Cindy. He asked if I was giving him an ultimatum. I said if he will go as far as disregard and disrespect my feelings for Cindy. This really rubbed my husband the wrong way, and he said since I have such disgusting thoughts in my mind and has given him an ultimatum anyways, then he might as well leave because he cannot live with such an insecure person who has such disgusting thoughts about him. He packed a bag and left for his mother's place, and I have tried apologizing numerous times, telling him how sorry I am for everything, but he's ignoring my texts and calls. Later, Cindy's brother texted me and called me a bunch of names to think like that about his sister, saying Jake should just leave me and a disgusting person like me deserves to be alone. I could not stop crying after that. I don't know how to fix this. Is there a way to even come back? Was I so wrong to deserve this? I don't know anymore. Edit. People who are asking our ages, well, we are 25 years old, just months apart. Update. Thank you all for responding and people who gave me good advice and personal messages. I couldn't read all the comments, but now I know my feelings are valid and boundaries were crossed by Cindy. Now during the dinner there was Cindy, her brother Sean and his girlfriend, and their cousin Derek, also a good friend of my husband. So I called Derek and asked about the situation and what happened after I left. He was sympathetic and said that after I left at first they thought I would come back after some time, however things were really awkward. But when I didn't come, Sean's girlfriend told Cindy that she was so disrespectful for doing that. Derek and his boyfriend also said the same thing. Cindy started crying, saying they didn't have to corner her and attack her over a silly joke that she didn't know would get so out of hand. She then left the room while crying. Jake didn't know what to say and everybody left early the next day. Derek also said that Cindy has always had issues with boundaries. This all sounds so bizarre. I don't know what's going on with Cindy. Sean's girlfriend also texted me saying she was sorry for what happened. I told her how Sean's message was inappropriate, but she had no idea about the text. So I sent her a screenshot and asked her to tell Sean to not harass me again. She was very apologetic and said she would talk to him. Now my mother-in-law called and asked what was going on, as Jake didn't tell her and only said we had an argument. I was a bit hesitant to tell her, but eventually told everything. She was furious at my husband. She said they will be coming to have a talk. So yeah, I'm just waiting for them to arrive and I'm really nervous. I don't know if what I did was right or wrong, but we will see. As for people saying my husband is some pedo or they are having an affair, I know this is furthest from the truth. I never questioned his intentions. What hurt me was a lack of respect from Cindy towards me. Around the time that I got my first full-time job and finished college, I decided I was ready to venture out and start dating. I had heard about this amazing app through a few of my co-workers, a little thing called Tinder, so I decided to give it a shot. After about a week on the app, I finally matched with a woman who we will call Talia. Talia lived in a different city than I did, but the day we matched, she said she was visiting a cousin. We messaged through the app, and after verifying she was real through her Facebook and Instagram profiles, we exchanged phone numbers. She said she was employed full-time, had an apartment and her own car, and was somehow still single. We talked for about 2 weeks on the phone, always at nights after my shift at work before we finally had a chance to meet when our schedules match up. I drove my beat-up 1996 Honda Civic to her town. Spent that Friday night, I forgot where we ate that night, and in the morning we had breakfast at Waffle House. Talia did have her own apartment, however, she lived next door to her grandmother, who I awkwardly had to meet the next morning. I learned from Talia that her car was actually in her grandmother's name and her apartment was in the name of her cousin. She went so far as to show me family portraits with her cousin to talk about her abusive ex, and even shared with me how her laundry room was embarrassingly infested with flies and roaches. We officially changed our social media to dating that day. Keep in mind that this was my first relationship in almost 4 years, so I was excited. The scam. Talia also told me that day that she had been fired from work about a week earlier, but was too embarrassed to tell me. I asked how she had kept up her bills, and she said that her grandma and dad had been helping her. Talia asked if I could help her make her car payment, which was due that weekend. I refused. She then explained that she would get a payday loan, which is banned in our state, and could put it into my checking account. I felt uneasy about it and asked if there was another way she could get the loan. Talia said that she could use her grandma or dad's accounts because they had burned her in the past. I thought it was weird, but she started crying, so I called my bank where I had an account since high school graduation and opened a linked checking account. I gave Talia the new checking account number and routing number. Talia contacted a payday loan company in Alabama, and by Sunday morning she had the funds in my linked checking account. Per our agreement, I gave her the money. Talia promised to repay the loan within 2 weeks, and I had my reservations but went back home and back to work Monday. Talia called me on Wednesday and said she had a new job. I asked if she had the payday loan squared away with her first paycheck, and she said she did, but I still got charged $47 2 weeks after she settled the loan. I called my bank, called Talia to verify the loan was going through her, and terminated the charge from the payday loan as I was not the signed person. Talia and I agreed to meet on Memorial Day weekend 2 weeks later. She stated that her dad had given her a check for the entire loan amount, $1,800, and that she would deposit it into my bank near her. Like a fool, I let her deposit the check right before Memorial Day weekend. 2 weeks later, the payday loan company charged another $47 plus penalty fees and another $47. The $1,800 check bounced. Talia stopped answering her calls and blocked me on everything. I called my bank and informed them that I was a victim of fraud. Within hours, my main checking account into which my paycheck had gone, my savings account was $800 saved for a new car, and the new checking accounts were closed. My best friend from college, we will call him Clark, found Talia had 2 of every social media account. The one she shared with me and the one on which she had a boyfriend. Her cousin from her family photos was actually her boyfriend since high school. Talia was 22. Her boyfriend, we will call him Jason, was in prison, but from their social media posts, she was visiting him once a month minimum and had plans to marry him. I spent days trying to get back my accounts and my money. One of my representatives from my bank, and Clark and my mom, advised that I should press charges for fraud. My bank mailed me a copy of the bounced check for criminal investigation purposes, and it showed Jason's name and not Talia's father's name as the owner of the check. That's when I decided to get revenge. As I mentioned before, Talia's apartment had a minor infestation of roaches and flies in her laundry room. While I went through legal agencies to pursue prison charges of forgery on the check, fraud, and so on, I found the name and phone number of Talia's apartment complex. I left a message for the apartment complex management that Talia and her grandmother both had filthy apartments. Within a week, Clark showed me that Talia had posted a request for temporary housing for her and her grandmother, since her parents wouldn't let her move in. Talia's payday loan company began calling me, as Talia had given them my phone number instead of hers, and they had not received payment yet. I was still reviewing my legal options at the time. One day, I answered and notified the rep that Talia had fraudulently used my checking account. The rep who called me transferred me to their legal department, who was very interested. It turned out that Talia's grandma and her father owed money to the payday loan company. It wasn't a lot separately, but the payday loan company had enough evidence with my claim that Talia was a ringleader using her family's accounts. I turned over my evidence, including Talia's text messages promising to pay, the company of the bounced check, and my bank statements. By the end of the year, Talia was arrested on several charges. Her grandma and father were also arrested but took pleas for lesser charges in exchange for turning over evidence on her. I didn't have to testify at the trial, but I kept informed. Talia's grandma had had a minor heart attack when she was arrested and had a more significant one during the trial. I am not sure if her grandma lived or died after the trial. Despite this, Talia went to prison for multiple counts and will serve more than a decade behind bars. To start off, I am a 14-year-old male, and I normally live in Germany. But this happened in Switzerland. My school was going out on a 4-day field trip to an adventure camp. We were told the plan beforehand. It was day 1, no events, as we'd arrive in a late afternoon. Day 2, kayaking for 1 hour, and the destination was an outdoor camping spot where we would spend the night and then take a train back to camp in the morning. Day 3, 7-hour hiking trips in the Alps to a place called the Monte Rosa Hut, a stay for hikers where we'd again stay the night and hike back down in the morning. Day 4, pack up camp and return home. The first 2 days were quite nice. I liked the kayaking, although about at the 52-minute mark, I started swimming as it was going to be faster and our stuff was being taken there by truck. However, on the 3-day mark, we were given a choice. We'd receive a choice between either the base route, which would take about 7 hours, and the 4 teachers who came with us would all be taking it, or the advanced/glacier route, where we'd be joined by 2 of the camp's instructors. Before I move on, let me explain a bit on this entire camp trip. 4 of our school's teachers would join us, but we also had 6 camp instructors. There were 50 students in total, and each camp instructor was responsible for 10, and the 6th one was the main lead who organized everything. Now back to the choice again. The base route, all teachers were on it, along with 4 of the camp instructors, and the glacier route had no teachers taking it but only 2 camp instructors. Now I enjoy hiking and didn't feel like walking till night as the base route took 7 hours. So I chose the advanced/glacier route that only takes 3 to 4 hours. 4 others ended up picking the advanced and we departed. This is where the moment happened. Now, if you've never seen a glacier before, which is fine, it is essentially compressed blades of ice that formed into a floor over time. But there are massive gaps in between the plates that could go hundreds of meters down. All went smooth, and we were about halfway through when the instructor with us got a call on his walkie, and yes, there ended up being only 1 instructor with us, as only 5 total people picked a route. He said that he needed to head about 10 minutes back, as one of the kids, taking the base route which went along the mountains above us, had dropped his sleeping bag down, but they could see that it landed a couple of 100 meters behind us. He told us to wait where we currently were while he went and grabbed it. While we waited, a woman who looked in her mid-40s came along with her daughter who looked about 9, maybe 10. She threw us a pretty basic question of why we're here, and I just told her we're on a camp trip, waiting for our instructor to come back. She looked at me a bit strangely and said, well, me and my daughter decided if we're already in Switzerland, might as well hike. It was pretty normal, and then I eventually got up after about 2 minutes as my legs were getting cold and I wanted to move them, and I just walked along one of the glacier legs. Then the woman's daughter ran up behind me and decided to push me while I was next to the ledge. I had a mini heart attack, and if I didn't have the spiked shoes that you're given for glacier hiking, I would have 100% fallen. When I got back to my senses, I backhand slapped that little crab hard enough to make her fall over. Then her mother rushes over screaming, "Why would you do that? She was just playing." I thought I was in a lucid dream. My response rightfully was, "Your daughter tried to freaking kill me. You insane witch." She picked up her daughter who was crying and still a bit dazed then started just carrying her away and just screaming slurs. She called one of the other people who had walked over to help me as I was still in a bit of a shock the N-word. By pretty much all the others there just asked if I was okay or needed anything. Being the person that I am, I just sat down and said, "Let's not mention this ever. And before you tell me I should have told the instructor when he came back, just think the woman is already gone and all it would do is cause drama." And knowing my school, it would make a lot of gossip. But yeah, that's my story. And to this day, I still kinda hope that some ice broke under that woman on her way back and she drowned. Call me horrible for that, all you want, because I understand. But by now, I've let go of that feeling and just hope I never meet her again. Tell me, would you have done things differently than me if you were in my position?
Most of you know me, but for those that don't, here is a brief backstory.
I am 33 female and I double a registered nurse for a local clinic during the day and ER overnight. I am married with 3 children. On was the post. It was an ordinary day at the clinic. There wasn't much going on since Kevin, just dealing with the usual patient woes. Cough/sneezing or minor bodily injury. When a young man, let's call him Todd, enters with his service dog, a beautiful border collie. Naturally, the dog brings out all the ladies in the office, myself included. My administrative assistant, nicknamed Nicole, does her regular scripted greetings towards the patient and asks the young man what brings him in. He came in because he wasn't feeling well. The assistant gets him started with the paperwork, while myself and my medical assistant and rat tech are going towards the suite for a baby. While the patient is filling out the paperwork, this small conversation took place. "Hi sir, how are you today? What brings you in?" I ask him. He says, "Well, you see, I haven't been feeling well. I am having difficulty breathing in and out of my nose and congested in my chest." I'm so sorry to hear that. Can I ask, why do you have a service dog? We are legally allowed to ask this question due to ADA guidelines. Oh, I was born with Usher syndrome. What is Usher syndrome? Usher syndrome is where over time you progressively lose your ability to see or hear. In my case, it started when I left my mom. Yeah, because of my condition, I have also developed an anxiety condition that Abby was trained to sense and cue me down. Oh, I am so sorry to hear that, sir. Please do not hesitate to call or ask us for help filling out any of the paperwork. Oh, thank you, but that won't be necessary. I can see a little, but some things are blurry. But thanks for asking. Oh, sure, sir. If you need any assistance, let us know. By the way, your doggo is really sweet. What breed is she? Oh, Abby? She's a 3-year-old boarder and she's been my best friend for years. I don't know what I would do without her. I've raised her since she was a pup. Oh, how sweet. Well, I best be getting back to work. I'll be seeing you and Miss Abby. I ruffle the pup's collar. In just a minute. Let me or Nicole know if you need anything. We part ways briefly to go get the room ready for Todd and Abby. And that's when we hear the door chime, indicating that another visitor has entered the facility. Per Nicole, she introduced our Karen. This woman looks like a version of Christy Alley. Hands her the necessary paperwork and Karen goes to sit down only a few seats down from Todd. Todd gets up to hand Nicole the paperwork he's filled out. Abby perks up and helps Todd across the room. Karen apparently didn't like this and keeps grunting and throwing nasty looks in Todd and Abby's direction. Todd and Abby take their seats and are waiting on myself and the medical assistant to bring them to the back. Karen gets up and approaches Nicole. "Here you go." She hands back the clipboard with the paperwork. Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but I noticed you haven't completed your paperwork. Is there something I could help you with? No, I don't feel comfortable here. I am sorry to hear that. Can I ask how I can make you feel more welcome? Well, yes. You can start by removing that filthy flea bag. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this is something I cannot do. Why not? It's unsanitary to have a filthy animal in a sterile field. That dog doesn't belong in here. Perfect timing. Poor Abby perks up her ears as she's hearing an ambulance pass by the clinic with its horn blaring, bringing to howl. Oh, shut up, you filthy flea bag. Karen screeches at the dog. Shut that stupid mutt up. Todd says, I'm so sorry. Shush, Abby. He pulls on her lead and tries to get Abby to settle down. She doesn't often do this. Nonsense. That mangy mutt probably isn't a real service dog anyway. Probably just bought the Vist off eBay. Lying jerkhead. Nicole tells her, Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you cannot be approaching our other patients or the dog. The dog is a service dog for this patient. Please lower your voice. It may disturb the other patients in the office. Tries to redirect Karen. Would you like my help filling out your paperwork so you can be seen by the provider? No, I want this mutt removed and to speak to your provider. Sure, ma'am. Nicole places a brief call to the back nurse station and requests that I come to the front and gives a brief indication that there is an urgent matter happening out front. So I get up and go to the front where I greet and meet our Karen. Hi, ma'am. How are you doing today? I tell her. Not so good, honey. You see, I came in here because I'm experiencing a lady problem and this beast right here keeps making inappropriate noises and stinks. I've asked your receptionist here to do her job and get that beast out of here, and she refuses to kick that kid and his mutt out. It's just not okay. Oh, well, I am so sorry to hear that. What noises are you hearing that you find inappropriate? It's howling, panting, and it's just so nasty and unsanitary. I'm sorry, ma'am, but per the ADA, we cannot discriminate against the disabled or prevent them from using a service animal. What? He's abusing that animal. How can you people be so cruel and disgusting? You'll burn in hell, you piece of trash. She wags her finger at Todd. Ma'am, that is enough. You're gonna have to calm down or I am going to have to ask you to leave. There is no need for that name calling or for this issue to escalate. The dog is a service animal and is here to assist his owner in daily tasks. Now, if you would like to still be seen by myself or my provider, I can go ahead and take you to the back and have you wait in an exam room. Really? I want to see that mutt's paper. She approaches Todd with her hand out, demanding for his registration papers. Ma'am, I get between her and Todd to prevent Karen from getting too close to Todd. That is not necessary, and you're not allowed to ask anyone for proof of identification or medical necessity. I think it's best if you find another physician group to care for you as we won't be able to help you today. How dare you? Why can't you see me? Why do I have to leave? That monster and his filthy mutt should leave, she argues. I demand you kick them out now. Ma'am, I have asked you to stop yelling. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I will not be able to treat you today as you're acting very inappropriate and causing a commotion here. Could you please leave? Oh, shut up. I can do and say whatever the hell I want to. And I will not leave until I'm seen. And that monster with his mutt are thrown out. While my back and attention was focused on Karen, Abby had gotten up and was alerted to her owner's distress cues from Todd. All of Karen's screaming had begun to make Todd panic. That's when Todd stood up, grabbed Abby's lead, and just collapsed on the floor after lightly hitting one of the other chairs in the waiting room. I quickly turned around, rushed to Todd, and ordered Nicole to get the medical assistant and the other registered nurse. Oh, stop faking it, you stupid idiot. She's coughing and approaches Todd. She kicks his boot, trying to make him move. Nicole returns with my medical assistant and registered nurse, while all three of us attend to Todd. Nicole asks for Karen to step back a bit. Why the hell do I have to step back? He's faking it. Get that damn mutt out of here. I told you this was no place for him. Shut the hell up, damn it. Well, it was not my finest hour, but I was panicked and irritated at this woman's audacity. The whole room goes quiet. This would be one of the very rare occasions that I have ever gotten this angry. I call over my shoulder for Nicole to phone for the authorities and an ambulance. I proceed to position Todd on his back with the help of the nurse. I check his airways and use my hands to feel the back of his neck and head to make sure there is no bleeding or swelling. I also use my stethoscope to check his heart and lungs. I then proceed to try and wake Todd up. He's not responding. I take out my ophthalmoscope from my scrub jacket's pocket and try to look into Todd's eyes. I check his pulse and ask my registered nurse to get his blood pressure and pulse oximeter using her wrist cuff. I speak over my shoulder to my medical assistant to start an IV line. I don't think it's life-threatening, but I don't want to risk it, with how quickly Todd went down. Besides, he didn't say he was having issues breathing, and I know we don't have that type of equipment. Was in the office if he begins to code. The longest 20 minutes of my life, and an IV drip started. Todd is on a gurney bed of an ambulance and is being loaded into the back of it. I turned to the local authorities that followed the ambulance and asked them to remove Karen from the premises. But you haven't even asked about how I was doing. Ma'am, you'll be lucky if I don't personally press charges against you for assaulting myself, my staff, and that patient. You should be ashamed of yourself. Go pish posh. I did nothing wrong. You should be arrested for allowing that beast in here. The officer tells her, enough is enough. Karen, please follow me. But, she tells him, but the officer drags her out of the office. The officer did press for a trespassing ordinance against Karen and escorted her out of the building. We haven't seen or heard from her since. As for Todd, and thanks to one of the daytime employees at the local ER, Todd is doing much better and needed to be observed overnight due to his head trauma and cardiac arrhythmia. Just for precautions. He made a full recovery, and when his relatives arrived at the hospital, the parents pressed assault charges against Karen, and I have been in communication with their attorney. Some of you might recall that financial crisis that happened a bit back, circa 2008-ish. At the time, I was working in a call center for retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. For any non-Americans, these are plans from your employer where you can contribute a portion of your salary, and usually they will also contribute something as well to save for retirement. This is probably the biggest way that Americans save for the end. As the account holder, you have control over how the money is invested, usually from a small selection of different mutual funds. Also about the call center, I had some experience. I knew what I was talking about. I was able to speak with confidence in my voice. Therefore, I was on the escalated line. This is reserved for the people who want to talk to a manager. I was not a manager, but I and others like me got these calls. In some rare cases, we actually fixed the problem. And more often than not, just told the customer the same thing they had just heard from the first trip, only with that level of confidence. Then they hung up as a happy customer. We also have the ability to review previous calls to the center. So one day in April of 2009, an irate client was transferred to me. He had just gotten his quarterly financial statement, showing that he was invested in several different funds that were affected by the stock market. His complaint was that he had called a month earlier to request that his stock market-based investments be moved to something more stable and less risky. At that time, the news was all doom and gloom, leading people to make majorly ill-informed financial decisions. This didn't happen. As I reviewed the transaction history on his account, I confirmed that whoever he had spoken to previously had only redirected new contributions into stable funds, but had made no change to any existing balance. I told the gentleman that I could review the call and if our rep had made a mistake, adhere to his wishes. I then tried to say something else, but was quickly cut off. Yes, review that call. I want my money out of the market. I tried to say something like, okay, but sir, only to be cut off again. This was not a man with a small account balance. At the time, it was 500k plus, meaning that at the beginning of the crisis, he probably had around 1 mil in his account. I reviewed the call and yes, our rep had made a mistake. I went through the process to retroactively conduct his requested transactions. The rep got a negative mark on his record for making a mistake, but the customer really got the short end. For those that don't know, the low point in the market was in early March of that year. Many stocks and markets rebounded enormously and very quickly. What I wanted to tell the guy was something like, Fund A is up 28% since the day you made that call. Fund B is up 32%, and so on. But as he didn't give me the chance to tell him to think about his request, well, that is why I am posting here. As my company had to backdate his transactions, he instantly lost about 150k in his account and missed out on a boom. Of course, he called later to complain, but even after our mistake, we had done exactly as he had asked. I hope he's enjoying his retirement. I work as a train driver. I drive smaller trains mostly out in the countryside, and people are generally nice and well-behaved. But of course, there are also the alcoholics, drug addicts, and general weirdos that uses public transport, and some people that just lives to be a pain in the butt. This was a few years ago. We were traveling in a late afternoon and my conductor, let's say C, storms into the driver's cabin, angry and annoyed, and tells me, "We have two rude, good-for-nothing guys on board and they are such a-holes." I ask him, "What did they do?" "They have no tickets, refuse to pay, just laugh up in my face and are saying, 'What are you going to do about it?'" What the hell? Should I help you throw them off at the next stop? We can't because they are just traveling one station, so they are getting off at the next stop. Damn, those smug guys was there. What you gonna do about it? So we're both angry, so I let the conductor rant and let off some steam. Next stop comes and the guys get off. The conductor angrily gestures at them. That's them F-words. We continue the short remaining journey and have a break at the end station. Some hours later the train then goes back. Since it's in the countryside and it's a late weekend evening, the train is almost empty on the way back. The conductor knows where every passenger on board is getting off, and she's up front with me, chatting, and all is fine. Until we approach the station where we let those guys off. We see two people standing there. It's them. My conductor besides me shines up like a damn sun. She says, with the biggest smile on her face, "Don't stop." And I'm just laughing, slowing down the train. Not stopping though. When we pass them, my conductor opens the window, waves and says loud and happily, "This is what I'm going to do about it." The guys are just staring at her with their jaws on the ground when we drive past them. We laugh all the way to our home station. We were the last train for the day. Edit. I wrote in the comments that we encountered these guys again a few weeks later. I'll post it here as well because these guys did not learn the first time. They apparently got on at the same station like last time, but we didn't notice them. They had plans to travel further than last time, but when the conductor went out to check the tickets, it went like this. The conductor spots them, recognizes them, and says loudly among the other travelers, "Oh, are you able to pay for your tickets today?" They just fidget and say, "No, we ain't got no money." Well, ain't that a shame? Guess you have to get off at the next stop. What the? Can't you be nice and let us be? What are we going to do at that crabby station? Guys, I don't give a damn. We're going off this train and you can walk to the next station. And I'm calling the train behind us so they won't pick you up either. They got off. The other train called us later because they saw the guys walking on a forest path along the railway track. And I haven't seen those guys since.